we've had a big
busy
8 days since we last recorded. We've had a loss to West Ham, sad. Erik ten Hag, sacked, mixed opinion.
Yep.
Ruud van Nistelrooy, interim manager. Amorim, basically, he's coming. Like, we all know he's going to be the manager in the next couple of weeks. That's taken about, 2 days to finalise and sort out. Ruud van Nistelrooy taking charge of his first game at Old Trafford last night, winning 5-2. First time we've beaten a Premier League opposition by 5 goals since August 2021. It feels like kind of it's gone from we were struggling a bit to talk about stuff during the international break to there is so much to cover.
Yeah.
But I think the only real way to get started is talking about Amorim.
Yep.
We've got a week ago, if you'd gone, yeah, Amorim's going to be your coach, I'm like, what? No, he's at Sporting. I think a couple of weeks ago we spoke about this on the pod, saying like he's not available. Like, who do we get? We don't know. He's not going to be available to the end of the season because I didn't know he had a release clause.
Yep.
So I think 10 million release clause. Like, if you think about the impact a player can make on a squad, and you go, oh, you can have this massively impactful player for 10 mil, and then translate it to a manager. It feels like kind of a lot to pay for a manager, but at the same time, that it completely changes the entire dynamic of this season, the squad, and I think the club.
Yeah.
And I want to discuss a little bit about how. How is he going to do this? Because there's a lot to change at this club. I know we always say that, we've been saying this for about 10 years. But I want to dive into the specifics of how is Amorim going to, turn this season around, turn this squad around, and then help turn this club around.
Yeah.
No, you first, Nick, bro.
Well, I mean, it's so multifaceted in terms of what he's going to. There's going to be so much. There's the on-pitch stuff, there's the off-pitch stuff. I'll go with the off-pitch stuff first because I think that's going to be a huge thing. And I think it's funny because I think every new manager that we've brought in recent years, their strengths are sort of where the old manager's weaknesses have been. So in this case, for example, with Jose, he was too strict. So Ole came in, he was nice, happy-go-lucky guy. With Ole, he became too soft. So then you bring Ten Hag, this guy who's a bit more stern, he's a bit strict. He'll lay down the rules, etc. But Ten Hag, his communication was poor. Now we're bringing in someone who I think has good communication, is a great character. I think in Ruben Amorim, and this is something that I've seen reported by Portuguese journalists, which is that he will get the squad really up for it. He'll get them fired up for it. He will create this sort of us against the world mentality that I think we associate with Jose Mourinho. I've heard a lot in terms of the similarities between the two. So for me, one of the main things that he will straight away bring in is that load of character that I think Ten Hag, although in moments you could see he tried to bring out his sort of character, it didn't really come out. And I think that Ten Hag really lacked in his sort of emotional intelligence at time as well. And I think, again, that is something that Amorim will bring as soon as he gets in the door, I think.
Yeah, I think, Amorim does seem like a good communicator. And I think, Ten Hag kind of lacked on that bit. I was hoping that, as the time went on, he would get better at that. I think, the likes of Pep and Klopp, as time has progressed on, the way that they conduct their interviews with the media and they speak to everyone has gotten better and improved. But Amorim seems like a really stern character as well. And just the way that his English sounds, it sounds really clear and concise. He can speak Portuguese as well. And then in terms of on the pitch, though, the way his formation and the way that he's going to set up the team, I think, especially in the defensive line, we've already got plenty of centre backs that can play in a back three, and potentially can even get the best out of someone like Maguire, Lindelof, Euro. There's so many centre backs in our club that are able to be utilised now and are going to be needed because we're going to be playing 3 centre backs potentially. I think the back three as well. I watched his last game against Nacional. We won 3-1. It looks really interesting because the fullbacks now are going to be the players that are going to be holding the width. When you think of a Manchester United team, you're thinking wingers flying down the wings. Nani, Giggs, Ronaldo, Januzaj was another quality winger as well. All these types of wingers, they kind of are a bit less on the defensive side of the game. Whereas, the fullbacks pinning the opposition's defensive line as high away as possible is going to see a lot of creative midfielders coming into the game and intelligent midfielders. So just the way that we play football is going to be completely different to how I think Ten Hag was trying to make us play in terms of transitional football. And it's going to be a little bit similar-ish, I think, to, someone that's going to be defensively sturdy with that the back three plus the 2 midfielders. So the way that we're going to play football is going to be really interesting going forward.
So the one thing about that is, I've been thinking about this, is obviously Amorim is very, he likes what he likes in terms of his play style, everything back three thing. But for me, I think it'll be more interesting because everyone's kind of assuming that we're just going to change to a back three team now. But I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. It might be. You know, he might come in and go, right, we're going to play a back three from, so his first game's going to be Ipswich. Right? As of Ipswich, back three, that's what we're staying at now. I don't think it'll be as immediate as that. Obviously, I don't know. No one knows.
Yeah.
But I feel like if he's going to come in, he's got the international break to prepare. But realistically, he won't have all of his players back until the Wednesday or the Thursday before the Ipswich game. He's only going to have a few days. And I feel like maybe he'll start with a back four and then maybe transition to a back three either against weaker, so to speak, opposition or wait until he's got a few weeks to put that into the team. I feel like it's potentially going to immediately back three, complete change everything. Realistically, these guys have been playing the system that Ten Hag's wanted for the last 2 and a bit years. Switching immediately to a back three might be a bit drastic, but you never know. Because it is a formation that also it protects players. Yeah, especially back. So he may think it's safe enough to do so.
I think you're able to get your front three involved in the game. They were always playing a central midfield too under Ten Hag. And our box. The 2 higher players up the pitch. They're the 2 10s. Well, it was 2 9s, but he used to play 2 false 9s. In that 4-2-4 shape, and then the 2 midfielders as well. So it's not that much adjustment there. And then the back three is quite interesting, you're right. And then you've got 2 fullbacks bombing on. But I think if he implements it straight, I'll prefer for him this time, especially on what happened with Ten Hag, I'll prefer that he just starts it straight away. And against Ipswich, it's against McKenna, funny enough. Yeah. But it'll be like, against Ipswich, hopefully we've got enough players to see that process through and just start.
One thing as well, I've heard from Man United fans recently as well, is that, top coaches, top managers, they can adapt. So we might see a 4 at the back. Even throughout his time as a coach at Man United. But for me personally, I don't want to see him do that. Now, I initially, when I heard about the back three, I was unsure if it would work for us because, again, you go back to, our traditional wingers. I loved our wingers being proper wingers, etc. But for me, it's like, if 3 at the back is your philosophy, it's what's worked for you, it's what got you your success at Sporting, and it's what landed your job here at Man United, then stick to it. If that's how you want to play football, like you just said, I would rather just see him throughout his whole time there, say, this is my style of football, this is how we're going to do it. And ultimately, we've seen 3 at the back be successful in the Premier League before. Yeah. It's not going to be alien to the players completely. So I hope he does stick to it. With the 3 at the back, I think it'll be interesting because I think, like you said, the fullbacks will be the ones keeping the width. But you know what? Sometimes with his fullbacks, they're almost there as decoys. Then sometimes they're not even used because he'll put them out wide to keep the width, to keep the opposition's defensive line worried about the width, and then he'll just overload the central areas. And I'm excited about that because I think with the likes of Rashford especially, obviously it depends how he ends up using it, but Rashford especially, Bruno, even Kobe, I think Ahmad, Garnacho, I think there are players there who need to be closer to the box more often, in positions where they can take a shot with 1 or 2 touches. For me, this season, Rashford has been far too far away from goal. He has to be closer to goal. Kobe, for me, has to be closer to goal. And I think that actually with Kobe, a partnership of him and Agate is really exciting because I think Agate can play, because it's 2 next to each other, but really one's an 8, one's a 6. So I think it'll be Agate to be that 6 covering role. And I think it will be Kobe to be really getting forward and adding basically another attacking midfielder. So it's exciting like that. And I think that if you see what he's done with Inacio and Diamande, the 2 centre-backs for Sporting, I could see Lissandro and Yoro playing those 2 roles in terms of being the ball-playing centre-back. So there is a lot to be excited about with the 3 at the back. I think we have to be cautiously optimistic, though, because I think, like we've seen it before, it doesn't always translate from one league to another. And obviously, our squad right now, not the most confident, not the most informed. So I wouldn't be surprised if it takes a little bit of time to kick in, but it's exciting. It is exciting.
They're just, obviously, mentioning about the players we already have.
Yeah.
There's, obviously, when a manager normally comes in, there's a whole thing of, right, we're going to have to rip up the squad again, buy a load of new players, and this squad is almost entirely Erik Ten Hag's squad. And even the players who aren't Erik Ten Hag's players have been some of Erik Ten Hag's most important players, such as Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Diogo Dalot, as examples, and then also to an extent Harry Maguire as well at times has been very important for Erik Ten Hag. But we spoke about this just before, and it's just as you've alluded to, I think there are actually quite a few players in our squad at the moment who are A, young, and so therefore adaptable, and B, already have a skill set which I think and I hope Amorim will appreciate. I can't claim to know a lot about the specifics of Amorim's style of football. I've never really watched Sporting, bar when they happen to be on in the Champions League or something or playing Premier League team. But from what I've read and reading like the Athletic deep dive articles and endless threads on Twitter about what he does, it does seem like we actually have quite a few players who are in the mould of at least the players he has at Sporting.
Yeah.
So we've got, for example, Højlund, big, tall striker who's a little bit like, I can never say his name.
Gyökeres.
Yeah. Wicked player.
Yeah.
That guy, he scored an amazing free kick. We've got, he likes playing inside 10s, and we have players like Marcus Rashford, who kind of likes playing not that wide, but slightly further in. We've got Amad Diallo on the other side, who loves playing slightly further in from the right-hand side. Got Bruno Fernandes, who's very adaptable. Like you've mentioned that you think he can play better, deeper. And maybe with extra centre-backs behind him, he can play that role. We've got Diogo Dalot, who loves bombing up and down the right-hand side. We sometimes have Luke Shaw even, who likes going up and down the left side. Although I don't know how much Luke Shaw's going to be there, how long Luke Shaw's going to be there for. And then as you said, we've got ball-playing centre-backs, and also we've got big, tall, strong, brick-wall centre-backs like Maguire and like De Ligt. So I think, and Onana, good with his feet, and also this season so far has very much shown that he's good with his hands, and he's good. His reactions, I think, are getting a lot better, and he's getting a lot smarter as a goalkeeper. So I do think there's a lot of players in this squad at the moment who are in the mould of something Amorim would like, and because they're young, a lot of them are young, Amorim will be able to adapt them and mould them into the kind of player that he wants. For example, Garnacho, not 100% sure where he could play. Amorim could make him into some sort of makeshift left wing back or something, or see that, or make Garnacho start playing more centrally or something like there's a lot of, I think, opportunity for Amorim at United already to create a good squad without having to spend £500-600 million like previous managers.
Yeah, the open heart surgery has kind of been completed to the best possible way, I think. And then with this manager, you're getting an opportunity to utilise some of the players that we thought might not be good enough, under Ten Hag system, like a Maguire. And in a back three system, it will suit him. That's why I think he needs to start the back three system straight away. I know a lot of fans have been saying, maybe we don't have the players suitable for this manager, but I think we do. I really do. And because you'll still have your front three, it will just be inside forwards, or it could be 2 10s, or it could be 2 strikers. Garnacho can play as the little striker, and then you can have Xerxes or Højlund as your bigger forward. Like there's so many different ways that he can, have the 3 players together in terms of 2 10s, a striker, 2 strikers, a 10, a left forward, a right forward, and a main striker. There's so many different ways that he can do it. The interesting thing would be maybe how and where he puts Bruno. It's funny that Bruno kind of left the season before him, so they don't really have that much of a connection. I think Bruno leaves the season before, and then he goes on to win the league.
Amorim joined Sporting about 2 months after Bruno left.
Yeah, so that's going to be quite interesting. So I know a lot of people say, that meant that he doesn't know how to use Bruno, or Bruno was the reason why Sporting had their degree of success. But it was this manager and the way that he's coached those players and implemented his style of football. So I think we need to see what the likes of maybe a Luke Shaw, his role, but there's Harry Amas there. He's got a lot of youth players. He's got a lot of youth players that we can utilise. So it's just about him getting the right combination of players together. I think it's so important for him to get the best out of this squad. I mean, like you said before, we would be saying, rip it up, we need all these players to go. Now it's about the new managers coming in. Can they get the best out of what's there already? And then, get a consistent style of play, and then we can all look at it and say, okay, well, who's the best in the world at what this specific role needs for this position? Can we go and get him and replace him with what we've got now?
I just hope more than anything that Amorim is diplomatic. Yeah. Because I feel like Solskjaer was maybe at times a little too forgiving, or obviously we don't know overly too much. Then Ten Hag was very much the other way. He was very authoritarian, very his way or the highway. I feel like, as always, you need somewhere in the middle, and I hope that because Amorim's coming in, and it's important to make as head coach, he's not manager, he's head coach. I hope that he is kind of just more diplomatic with the players, because you can criticise the players for this, or you can say they have a right to have an opinion, but players at United have opinions. They have strong opinions. often, like we've seen throughout history, that, you know, once you're at a club like Man United, you're a player who has strong opinions because you've been the leader at a previous team, or you've captained your academy, or you've captained your national team. You have strong opinions and you've got a strong stance on them. And I feel like the best way to mediate that is by being diplomatic. Like I don't want to see another Jadon Sancho-esque situation, another Ronaldo-esque situation, because it just overshadows everything. Even now, even this season, when Sancho's away at Chelsea, it's still consistently mentioned under. When you mention Ten Hag, it's almost hand in hand. Ten Hag, Sancho, Ronaldo. Like, I just want him to be a much more diplomatic person.
I think he will be, and also I think, and I hate to say this if I'm being completely honest with you, but there is a lot of what Arteta's done well at Arsenal is to do with setting the culture, changing the players' perspective on what to do in terms of, like, they can't be nice guys on the pitch. I feel like our players are too nice sometimes. And some of the dark arts that Arsenal players have been doing recently has been getting back at them in terms of getting red cards and all this and that. But I do want to see Ruben Amorim hopefully implement a bit of the dark arts into our players. You know, slowing the game down a little bit. Our players are just, I feel like, mentally a bit frail. And I hope that he can bring a little change in that. I think what you said earlier about Harry Amas is really interesting, because when I was looking at the squad and I was kind of putting the players in terms of who can play where, left wing back was a position where I go, okay, Luke Shaw could probably do a job there. He could probably do well there. I'm not overly convinced on Malacia. Even when he is back fit, I'm not quite convinced that he's the right profile of player to do that role. So left wing back is the main position where I look at, and I'm concerned about how we've got the right player there. So I think Harry Amas could be a really interesting one, because we've seen how well, and you touched on this as well, he's very good with young players. And for example, if you look at what he done with Pedro Porro at Sporting, Pedro Porro became who he is under Amorim. So if he can implement that into Harry Amas, I think Harry Amas, he's not physically the strongest. I don't think that his defensive game is the strongest part of his game, but I think that technically he's very good. He can whip a good ball into the box. He's got a bit of pace about him. So I think that Harry Amas could be, and Diogo Dalot on the other side, those two could be two players who I hope can absolutely, like, excel under Amorim, I reckon. So.
Yeah. I think against Leicester, Diogo Dalot didn't have his best game.
No, he
I
hasn't.
agree with this. It's odd. The last couple of games, Dalot's been a little bit like wayward. I don't know if the
noise,
miss,
the
whatever is the open goal. That's the word I'm looking for.
Oh.
If that open goal miss is in his head a bit, but I think just last couple of games, it might just be a case of because he's been playing left back so much and he's suddenly back at right back. It's a bit. I don't know if it throws you a bit. I'm not too much.
Maybe mental fatigue.
He's played a lot.
I think I saw something the other day where it was like who's played the most under Ten Hag, and it was Bruno, Dalot, and then Rashford. So Dalot's
outfield players.
But even Onana, obviously, because Onana wasn't in the first season anyway.
True.
So I'm talking in the totality of Ten Hag being there. It was Bruno, Rashford, and then Dalot. And Dalot was only a few behind Bruno.
Yeah, I mean, Dalot's played a lot of football.
He's played a lot of
football.
And
when a left back comes back into the team or someone like that, he will be able to. Like, I've got full trust in Mazwari now as well. I think what a signing. Yeah. He's been a fantastic signing. But I think against Leicester, I think we had quite a few players who really surprisingly impressed, such as like Casemiro.
Yeah, Cas.
Rolling back the years, I think. Like that first goal, I was dumb. I couldn't type. So I was doing the coverage on District, and I had the goal graphic ready and everything. I had goal lined up, and I couldn't type Casemiro because I didn't know what to do. I was just like there. I spelled getting it wrong and everything, and I was trying to spell the word rocket and then find the emoji, and it was that goal was stunning. That's our goal of the season so far. I think without a shadow of a doubt. And then, but even beyond the 2 goals he scored, Casemiro was great. He was pinging passes left and right, making great defensive tackles, organising the whole team around everything, and it's so lovely to see. Like, for all the stick, I think rightly that he's been got. For the most part, I think this season actually he's been surprisingly decent. And I don't know if Amorim was watching, but if he was watching, it's a fantastic, like I say, first impression. Everyone knows who Casemiro is anyway. But as a first impression, watching him as soon-to-be Man United manager, I think it was perfect. Same with Bruno, same with Ugarte as well. I thought that midfield was really good. Rashford was
not great.
Yeah, not fantastic.
Yeah.
Garnacho I thought was fantastic. Xerxes again Thought was great. But I think there was really mixed performances against Leicester. But I really also just really enjoyed that game.
It's crazy, like what a new manager or a new pair of eyes can really do for a team. I think it's about finding a role for these players though as well, because I think Casemiro, as he gets a bit older now, it's going to be difficult to maybe do the running up and down in the pitch, as a midfielder. And is he a brilliant six? But, there's found a role for him, similar to Scott McTominay's role, not box crashing, but just being a little bit higher than the main anchorman that can do all the running, left side of the pitch and the right side of the pitch. But yeah, this role for him now, he's just such a brilliant finisher and a match winner, the way that he, always gets his head on the ball for the crosses and that kind of thing. It was really good to see, I think, for that game, especially in the first 20, 30 minutes of the game. But I think for me, Rude is only going to be here for a little while. Yep. So, the next couple of games, it's going to be kind of like good vibes. It's just going to be good vibes. It's just going to be about, that kind of thing. And it's kind of, I don't want to get too excited about it because, we've seen this kind of thing before under different managers where, okay, they've played, and it was not a basic 4-4-2, but it was a 4-4-2 with the impetus to just always attack and create attacks. But it's like, for me, we've seen that kind of thing, that new manager bounce kind of thing before. It's when it gets serious is when Amorim comes in and that's when the business end of the season really kicks in. Can he find a role for Casemiro? Can he find a role for Garnacho, like I was mentioning? What kind of version do we get of Garnacho? Bruno as well. Even Xerxes, you mentioned about, lots of players being in the central part of the pitch. Xerxes was doing that at Bologna, I think it was before, under Motta. He was coming from deep area, going deep into the midfield and defensive midfield, quick passes, 1-2 passes. He needs players around him. So even Xerxes, we could get the best out of him under Amorim. So it's about when he gets here, what does he do? Because that was a big issue with Ten Hag as well. He was playing players in weird positions. Mazraoui in the 10, he wasn't getting enough out of Ahmad. So we need Amorim really to be able to identify where these players are, their strengths, and always getting the right combination of players together.
Yeah, I thought Xerxes again looked underwhelming, if I'm being a bit honest. He looks too heavy at the moment. I think he needs to shed a little bit of weight because that was not a Premier League intensity game. That's not right. That Leicester was slow, Leicester were poor. And even despite that, Xerxes still looked just off it. And also, parts of his game, which you say is his strength in terms of his good touch and link-up play, that's been poor as well. So I think a big side of it with Xerxes right now is his confidence. I hope that he can kick on, but so far it's looked a little bit worrying, his form so far. But hopefully he can kick on under Amorim. I think with Casemiro, I actually think that Casemiro can still have a big, big part to play at Man United for the next few seasons. I genuinely do because... Okay, so if you say Kobe is your 8 and Agate is your 6, okay, that's great, and I like that duo. But who else is there beyond that? Because someone's going to have to cover. And realistically, I think Casemiro can do the 6 and will do it fine. But I actually think he could excel in the number 8 role because if you can have 3 centre-backs covering you and Agate screening behind you, and you just say to you say to Casemiro, just get involved, get stuck in the attacking play, I think he could do well. And actually, you know what? By the end of his Man United career, his highlights reel at Man United is actually stacking up now. Like, he's scored some wicked goals at the club. Like, his acrobatic finish against Bournemouth a few seasons ago, it's like, where does that come out of? So, I think Casemiro genuinely has a real part to play. And I think that a lot of the criticism thrown at him over the last sort of 12 months, I would say has been a bit unfair. Because the role that he was asked to play at times under Erik ten Hag, you could put Declan Rice there, Rodri, you could put the most tenacious and rapid CDM in that role, they would struggle. Kante, they would struggle because he was far too isolated. My concern with Casemiro throughout that time wasn't that, oh, his legs are gone. I think that was just lazy saying that. I think with Casemiro during that time, he was making some weird decisions at times, lunging into challenges that he shouldn't be. I don't know if you guys seen that clip where Lise had the POV camera on him?
It's the ref.
The ref, yeah. Where he's just dropped Casemiro, and it's just like that in itself was a prime example of what Casemiro's been doing wrong. Yeah. So I think if he gets rid of some of those mistakes that he's been making and he's put in a structure which protects him a bit more, I think Casemiro, despite the wage and salary being far too high,
it is,
could be a good player for us in the seasons coming, because I don't think realistically you can sell him in the summer.
Yeah, being real, we have to use that 5-year contract somehow because we gave it to him and he's got it now. It was just with Casemiro for me, what I've always found ever since we first signed him was how weirdly good he is in attack. It baffled me from the first, like when his first 5-6 games, it was like he had to get going, it felt like. And then once he was going, like obviously his first season, he was fantastic. And it always surprised me how like really good he was with the ball. And he still is. So, like against Leicester, again, like you said, it was a less intense game. But at the end of the day, you still have to be good enough to make those passes. And some of the passes he was making was great.
The pass to Dallo.
But it's like he's just pinging these balls left and right. It's really nice to watch. And I always want a United player to do well. And I admit I was criticising Casemiro a lot. I don't necessarily think it was all unfair. I think it may be a point of contextually his legs were going on the way because he was playing too much. Again, you can say maybe that's Ten Hag's fault or the training's too intense because as you get older, you need to train less. I'm sure, like in an ideal world, Johnny Evans wouldn't want to train 7 days a week because he wants to keep himself
fresh,
fit and ready. I'm sure Ronaldo in the Saudi League isn't doing every single thing every single day because you're getting older, you need to look after yourself. But I think if you look after Casemiro right, there's definitely a player there, and I agree that it should be the 8. I don't want to see Casemiro as the deepest player. And as well, Ugarte, I don't want to see him too much further past the halfway line. Like he was so good yesterday at like sweeping and winning the ball back. Then when he had the ball at his feet, it was a bit like I didn't quite know what was like. You never knew what was going to happen. He's going to give it away or anything. But that's something you can train a player. But I feel like with Casemiro and Ugarte, oddly, it's quite a good pairing because Casemiro can't really do defence much anymore, but he's fantastic with the ball at his feet, and Ugarte is at best par with the ball at his feet, but he's been fantastic sweeping around defensively. So if he just stays in those middle 2/3, or the defensive and middle third, then just strangely a really good pairing. And then obviously throw Mainu in there, who's a quality player.
Amorim's got the best out of Ugarte before. And
he made him.
Yeah, he made him. And then, Cass is one of those players where we've seen the best out of him in those, the box crashing elements. So we just have to keep going with Cass, I guess, but know what his role is and utilise him that way, sparingly. In that
there is 100% somewhere there for him.
Yeah. Do you know one thing as well I reckon we could see a lot of in terms of what you just said in terms of Ugarte not being the guy to go forward. So he's going to screen in front of the back three. But I think that sometimes in possession, say if we've, against a lesser side where we expect to dominate possession, I think there'll be times where Lisandro will step up alongside Ugarte, and you almost have this box shape of De Ligt, Yoro, Ugarte, Lisandro. Just so, A, for the rest defence, in terms of Lisandro and Ugarte can step up if they need to step up to win the ball back quickly, but also in terms of recycling the ball again, if you're going back, you can give it to Licha instead of giving it to Ugarte because Licha is the more talented ball-playing player. So I think, obviously, the tactical tweaks are endless. We could see a lot. There's a lot to be excited about. There is a lot to be excited about.
Onana, in terms of, instead of a midfielder coming in to help add a number in terms of the defensive line, Onana coming up and then pushing Licha higher up. You still have your three in the defence. There's so many. Onana's going to be good as well.
This is what I mean. There's just so many flexible players in this team that can play so many different roles. Like Lisandro Martinez is doing quite well at left back now. Like last couple of games, he's been pretty decent. I just think that there's like a lot that can happen and it's already here, which is just what's so ideal.
Sometimes in the build-up as well, something that I saw the other day was that sometimes in the build-up he does actually go into a back four in the build-up. So like one of the centre backs will go forward. That can either be Licha if you want to use him in the midfield, or it could be De Ligt if you just want him to be a decoy there. But there's a lot of tactical flexibility. Even though it's a three at the back, it will change quite a lot, I reckon.
The players are going to need to be switched on, though. That is you're going to need these players need to be very, very switched on and understand crystal clear the instructions they're given. I think that's been a fault of Ten Hag's. So many athletics reports throughout the last 2.5 years have consistently been saying the players have gone out in the second half and they're not actually quite sure what they're meant to be doing. And people from the get-go, they don't know if they're meant to be staying back or pushing forward. And I think that is such a key. It's something that Yusuf says a lot, and I agree with him on this, is that you need someone now who is a fantastic communicator, who can get their ideas across. And hopefully that'll be Amorim. And I think his age is going to work as an advantage to him here. In the past, it's always been, your manager's got to be authoritarian, 55, grey hair, raspy voice, classic Sir Alex. But it just doesn't happen anymore. Arteta has got his team playing almost flawlessly football over the last 2 years. You know exactly what they're going to do. Every player knows where they're going to be. They don't need to look. They just know where everyone's going to be. And Arteta's only a couple of years older than Amorim, and he joined Arsenal when he was 37. I don't think age, because maybe we are using it as it's too early for him. If you're talented, like at United, you know, if you're
good
good
enough,
enough, you're old enough, and that applies to the manager.
Yep.
And I think his age here will work in his advantage because the players are young as well. He'll be able to, I think, communicate with them quite well.
Yeah. Sorry, you know what's quite fitting as well? Can I just say it's quite funny how this has worked out, yeah? So Ruben Amorim's last home game is going to be against Man City. So there's obviously the clear link there, Pep Guardiola, Manchester gloves, etc. And then his last game for Sporting in general is going to be away to Braga, the club where he started his like proper first team managerial role. So it's quite like...
Really?
Yeah. So and also it's interesting that Sporting also paid £10 million to get Amorim from Braga. So he was so obviously came midway through the season.
Yeah.
The fact that Sporting were happy to pay £10 million for Ruben Amorim when he was 36, 35, 1 year of managerial experience, and they went, we don't care, we're going to pay £10 million for him to bring him in now.
And then they won 2 league titles.
They have?
They had won a league title in 18 years when he then won his first title with them.
Crazy.
And in his
Only
first
good
season,
news.
he
Only
wins
good
it.
news for us.
And then his second league title, which they won, I believe, last season it was, I don't know. But it was like 10 points clear, I think.
Yeah.
I know it's the Portuguese, you can say what you want, but you know, you've
No,
got what you've got.
It's
And
valid.
he worked, 100%.
Because also Benfica and Porto are for like you say, the last 15, 16, 17, 18 years have been the two giants in the Portuguese league.
Yeah.
No one's really touched them. So the fact that he's come in and broken those two and won the league, that is something to...
I have no qualms with his age or experience
No,
or
not
anything,
at all.
because it just seems like, you know, he knows. And we've had experienced managers, and look where it's got us. Like, really, and then we got inexperienced managers, inexperienced managers such as Solskjaer, and he was arguably the most fun and the best we've been. I don't see it as an issue at all.
Yeah.
And
Agreed.
speaking of inexperienced managers, we've got Ruud van Nistelrooy, managed his first game, and he's going to be in charge of the next 3. Chelsea, PAOK, and...
Leicester.
And Leicester
and
again.
Leicester. Yeah, Leicester, those 3 games.
Yeah.
I think that as the 4 games, I think, they're good 4 games to have an interim manager for. Chelsea, it's a big game as well, but it's at home, and it's the next game. We just won 5-2. The scenarios are quite good. And also, I think it's good for him. If, let's say, he doesn't continue, that's a whole other topic. Let's say he doesn't stay on at United. That's a 4-game spread to really show yourself as a potential first-team manager in the future.
Yeah.
Because, like, Burnley were interested in him, and I'm sure, like, PSV obviously had him, and he won a trophy at PSV, sorry. But... yeah, I think like the next few games, and especially Chelsea, it's going to be a really kind of interesting thing to watch. Like, is he going to just keep going with whatever Ten Hag would have planned for, or is he going to throw his own ideas in there?
I think he's going to definitely involve some of the youth players. I think he understands what it means to be a Manchester United player and what it means to have youth players involved in the team. So I think he will. I think he had Fitzgerald, I think, part of the bench in the last game as well, which is really interesting. Another good midfielder, another good midfield option as well. So, and Wheatley is in and around it always on the bench. So hopefully we get to see a couple of these players during this time. Again, another young forward. Ruud was a top forward in his day. So let's just see what he does. I think it's going to be 4-4-2 for the rest of the time, though, that he's here. And it's going to be mainly vibes. I don't want to get too excited about it, if I'm honest. I don't want to get too excited about it because obviously Amorim is where it gets really serious. But like you said, a good advert for Ruud, man, in terms of just... And I think he wants to stay. I genuinely do think he wants to stay.
He said it yesterday. He said any capacity, he's happy to stay at the club.
So having him around, that kind of experience, is just important, especially for the forwards.
Yeah. I think I was not say disappointed, but I thought we would see a bit more change in how he deployed his team yesterday against Leicester, because I just think if you've got 4, 3, whatever games to show yourself as a first team manager at a big club, I did think that he would make some changes to say, hey, look, I've got some tactical ideas. They're good. Look at my team today. Whereas actually, because it was very similar to what Eric would do, it didn't feel like that as much.
He did only have 1 day. He basically just had Tuesday to prep for the team, though. I think maybe there'll be more changes against Chelsea and against POOK.
And that is a good point. I think there is a little bit of Michael Carrick about this, isn't it? In terms of how Michael Carrick came in, he was there for 3 games and then left. It's interesting. And also we played Chelsea in that time as well. We won. I know we drew 1-1. That was the day Sancho scored that goal. We won off Jorginho. I don't know. Let's see what he does. I think with Ruud, I feel for him a little bit, because I think this scenario in terms of, he could have been a first team manager at Burnley this season. And if he got them promoted, next season he would have been a Premier League manager. So I think now he's in a bit of a difficult spot because there are no guarantees what happens now in terms of when Ruben Amorim comes. Does he stay on as a coach? He won't be an assistant manager anymore. That will probably be gone now. And I don't know. I think he, like you said, he wants to stay. He said in any capacity he'll stay. But I feel like Ruben Amorim won't keep him. I don't know why. I just have that feeling that because there's this guy Ruud van Nistelrooy who was a club legend or is a club legend. He took charge and he loved it. Like you could tell yesterday against Leicester, he loved being the first team manager. I just feel like Ruben Amorim might see that as a potential, something which could be disruptive. I hope I'm wrong. Because I'd like to see Ruud stay.
I don't think it'll be disruptive or anything.
I don't think
I really don't.
But
It could be anytime there's a bad result or different form. Oh, let's get Ruud in. Get rid of Amorim. This is the wrong decision. They should have done. Ineos should have done it this way. Even though Ineos have done everything perfect, I think how they've handled the situation, the process that they've gone, investing, all these kind of things have been really good. But then they'll be like, no, this was your contingency plan. Why didn't you just keep Ruud on? Similar to maybe what happened with Ole. So I do understand. I do agree with that, and why Amorim would maybe want him to go. So.
But he'd be such a good link, I think, to the squad. Like this is like I think that keep him on, even if it's like you just keep him on until the end of the season or something. I feel like it's such a good. It's like the opposite of a buffer, like a connection or something. I don't know. Like you know what I mean. You know what I mean. But basically, just like because like Ruud's there, the players like it's obvious. The players really like him. The players want to work for him. Like they've all said in interviews, he's a fantastic person to have around. He's like tactically astute. He knows what he's doing just beyond, you should run in the box and score a goal. Like he knows what he's talking about, it seems. And I feel like if you bring in like your sports scientists, assistant managers, everything, but if you can keep him and find a role for him, even if it's just for the rest of the season or just like this season and then he'll leave in 2026 or something, I really think it would be a smart idea to keep him around. Even if it's just for the bedding in period.
Yeah. Like, he does just look the part though, innit?
Like, he so does.
Like this guy is 6 foot, I don't know, 2 or something. Good hair, good beard, the glasses, the all black outfit yesterday. He looks so good. Doesn't he?
There was a point when he was doing an interview with Melissa Riddy, and I think she's really small. Yeah, she is, and so the camera was kind of like in between the two of them, and he was looking down like this. He did look like a man, like a boss.
He does.
He really did.
He's
got that about him.
Yeah, and he kept giving them the fist pumps to the fans and all this and that. He definitely just loved it. He did love it. But
I think that's a case of him just knowing that it's going to be a few games, so he's just taking it, and he's not necessarily trying to like put his foot down and saying no. This is because he knows he's not getting the job, and he's known because he would have known the Amorim thing before we did. I assume like he might have they would have sacked Ten Hag and then gone and met Van Nistelrooy and gone, right, this is going to be our plan. We're going to get this guy. We want you to take charge for a couple of games.
We did find out about Ruben Amorim like literally a few hours after.
Oh yeah, I remember I was about to start cooking food and I looked down and just like David Ormsby notification. I'm like, right, I got to stop that again. Do my tweeting.
Can I just also say one last thing on that as well? Yeah, I find it absolutely hilarious that on the day that Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, the most of the headlines of the day was Erik ten Hag sacked, Ruben Amorim. Yeah. Because we're a big club.
Yeah.
We're a big club.
Real Madrid are trying to do their best to make it all about them.
Yeah. Which they did a little bit.
They did towards the end, but no one cares.
No one cares.
Everyone's talking about United, man. Yeah. We are the biggest club in the world. Like, we are. We don't need to throw hissy fits to stay in that place.
You know what's sad as well, and I was thinking about this earlier in terms of like when you talk about the biggest clubs in the world, obviously like I think majority of football fans would probably say Real Madrid. And I say, okay, fair enough, 15 Champions Leagues, whatever, in it, yeah. But if you think, right, with the Premier League being what it is now, if over the last 12 years that we've been crap, if we were just good, if we were really, if we were elite, right, and the Premier League is, the most like competitive sort of elite league, bro, we would be viewed as like
the greatest,
on a different level than everybody else.
Like,
we're on our way to that, though. We're on our way to that.
And
we're on our way to that.
The way we get there is by winning games, and we have to. The game in front of us is Chelsea. So I want to ask you, who do you want to see starting? Who do you want to see playing? What do you want to see from it? Because you mentioned you want to see changes.
Yeah.
But what changes do you want? Who do you want in that team?
I want to see a bit more of Ahmad. I want to see a bit more of Ahmad at the moment. And I want to see a youth player in part of, it's a free hit. Most of these games for Ruud is a free hit. Yes, he wants to do really well, but it's an opportunity for him to give a youth player an opportunity, one or two. Harry Amas, Fitzgerald's been part of the squad, but then there's Wheatley there. There's a few
from the start.
Yeah, from the start. There's 3 players there that Ten Hag kind of had in and around the squad. Someone like Garnacho's almost like a seasoned pro now, or like a regular at Manchester United Football Club. Cobby's a regular within them. Like we see them as starting first team players. So Ruud, I would love Ruud to maybe just introduce us to a few more minutes of 1 or 2 of the players. Fitzgerald, he's brought in. Wheatley's there. Harry Hamas. Sorry, there's 3 there. That there's 3 more games left. Let's see one of them coming from the start.
I know I said I want change. I mean, I don't know what changes Ruud could exactly make, but the way I think I would go about this game is that I think it will be quite transitional. I think Chelsea will give us space to work in. So I would go personally with like a back four of Onana, De Ligt, Lissandro. I'd go Dalot on the left, Mazraoui on the right. Personally, I would play both Ugarte and Casemiro in the midfield, because I do think there will be times where Chelsea could pin us. And when they're bopping it about and you've got Cole Palmer, around your shoulder, I want both Casemiro and Ugarte in there. I would go, and I know it's tough because I really want to see Ahmad start, but in this game, I wouldn't start him if I'm being completely honest. I would go Bruno, Rashford on the left. Personally, for me, I hate seeing him on the right. I would go Rashford on the left, Garnacho on the right, Højlund up top. I would go very much in a similar mold as how we remember the 3-2 against Aston Villa. Mm-hmm. I know it was chaos, and I know we were 2-0 down, but I do think there is potential for this game to be chaos, and I don't see a way where we can beat Chelsea in a controlled, possession-based manner.
Oh, no,
I think we're going to have to be compact to the back and rely a little bit on transitional play, if I'm being completely honest. And also, let's be real, if Cole Palmer's on the pitch, we've conceded at least one already. Whether he scores or he gets an assist, we're going to concede with Cole Palmer on the pitch, so we're going to have to score a few.
This is what I was going to say, is I think half of what I want to see us do is base our game around trying to stop Cole Palmer. Or not even trying to stop him, or I fully think he's one of the best players, if not the best player
in the league right now.
He is mind-blowingly good at football.
Yeah.
And I think the best way to play this game is to just blow it up to pieces. Just cause absolute carnage in the game. I feel like that is also, I think, Ruud's best play right now. Rather than trying to install some really fancy tactic system or anything, just completely try and blow Chelsea's game to pieces by being a ridiculously chaotic team. Obviously not as in just put Lissandro Martinez on the left wing or whatever and just do whatever you want. But in terms of keep a solid base, I do agree with the Ugarte Casemiro, because as we were saying before, they complement each other quite well. Yep. Casemiro's big, strong in the air as well. So if they are throwing balls at Nicholas Jackson, which they do sometimes, and Jackson is becoming quite a good striker, quite strong physical striker, you want people like De Ligt and Casemiro both in the box. You also want Ugarte to just sweep and try and stop things. If Cole Palmer playing in more of the 10, I think he's been playing more this season. If you've got Ugarte, where his job is to just get the ball off him, not necessarily then play out and play it forwards. Just get the ball off Cole Palmer however you can, however you want to. If it's a massive shoulder barge or a slider tackle or something, and then just pass it on to anyone, to then just throw the ball up front to Højlund. Because Højlund this season has been really good at keeping the ball with him. It's something I think he's really improved in the last 6 months, is getting the balls, keeping it to his feet, or playing it first time to someone else properly. Not just trying to knock it, which is what I think Xerxes done a few times. Højlund's scanning properly and getting the ball, knocking it off, and then sprinting well past, because he's so quick, and they're so quick. I think what I want to see. I agree with your lineup. That's I think the best.
Was that a 4-2-3-1?
I would go more or less.
I agree with that, because if you want to play transitional football, I think you need someone like Bruno playing not as a false nine or anything, but as a 10. Because you want.
Man, I hate it.
That's the only thing.
Bruno is
as
the 10 or
anywhere.
But I think when you're playing some sort of transitional game, you want someone a little bit deeper to be able to link it up properly.
Yeah. He doesn't link it though, because he moves everywhere. He's just he's not a 10 anymore.
It's the only option we have, and I think because if Eriksen's still injured, I think the only player we can play in that 10 therefore is Bruno, because I don't believe Xerxes.
He's going to start. He's going to start, but I think it's going to be a 4-4-2. But instead of Bruno up front, why not try Wheatley and Højlund? Like there has to. I hope that
I
he puts
think
a wild card in
throwing
there.
someone like Wheatley into that game doesn't make much sense.
Yeah, maybe not the Chelsea game. Maybe POAK. You know, an easier opposition, because I want him as part of these last 3 games to try something different. But you're right. I think it's going to be a 4-4-2 though. Again, I honestly, and that might give a lot of freedom for Cole Palmer, because Maresca's going to put 3 in there and try and overload the spaces, and it's going to be 3 against 2. But that's maybe why you use Bruno, to make it 3v3 in there. But Bruno anywhere in the 10 or the 9 is from maybe that's Ten Hag's instructions, but he's just been so.
He needs to
be more disciplined.
All over the place. He's got too much freedom. He needs to be more disciplined.
He needs to be more disciplined.
Yeah. One thing I will say though, in terms of Bruno against Chelsea is, and I agree in terms of he needs to be more disciplined and just stay there so he can link up the play. But one thing I will say is that I think Caicedo will be instructed to just basically
stick on him.
Yeah, stick on in terms of
or
how
Lavia.
We're talking about stopping Cole Palmer. I reckon Caicedo's job in that game will be to stop Bruno Fernandes. So there might be times where just to get on the ball, he might have to go out wide or go a bit deep, and I think we'll get frustrated. But I think he might have to sometimes, because Caicedo is in good form right now, and he's looking like the player that he was at Brighton again, and he's been a big part of why Chelsea have been really good this season. He's not making the headlines, but he's doing a real good job. So I think he's someone to watch in terms of stopping our attacks going forward. One last thing as well. I'll say on Cole Palmer. Yeah, Cole Palmer. I know you're a United fan. I know your whole family are United fans. Come to United, and I will buy you all the chippy chips you want in the world. A lifetime supply. Listen, Ruben Amorim, as those, the 2 number 8 and the number 10s. Imagine Cole Palmer off the right on that as a number 10.
Disgusting.
Beautiful. Like I remember I said to Kane yesterday. I was like, we should just throw in a 130 million bid just to see what Chelsea do.
Take more money.
If you just go 130 mil, what are you actually saying? Like, are they actually saying no?
Give him the number 7, by right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. Facts. Yeah. Facts.
Yeah.
That's another one we discussed the other day as well, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Mason Mount number 7.
Mason Mount.
Bad call.
Yeah.
Bad call, Eric.
But finally, I want to ask you score predictions. Chelsea versus United.
2-1 win. 2-1 win. I'm expecting a win. It's going to be at Old Trafford with a jubilant, excited, invigorated atmosphere, and ambience. So I'm hoping for a win. Chelsea don't usually have a hard time, and it's not Erik Ten Hag now. It's a kind of Ruud van Nistelrooy Red Army. So yeah, 2-1.
2-1. Nick, what are you saying?
You know what? Chelsea over the last few years, every time they've come to Old Trafford, we've got them. So I'm gonna go for an optimistic 3-2.
I was gonna say 2-2.
2-2. That's probably more realistic.
I can't see us scoring like 3 goals. Just because the game, I think, as we said, like, it's going to be chaotic, and that could result in either team scoring 4. And there I can see a scenario where we win, blow them to pieces 3-0. I can also see a scenario where we lose 3-0. But I feel like 2-2 because I feel like Cole Palmer will score. He's in my FPL, so I wouldn't be too mad about that. I do think we will score realistically. I think we will score because I think we're going to go back to the slight more gung-ho forward chaos ball. But we conceded 2 against Leicester. I know Bayindir was in goal, and it was a slightly dodgy, but there we were really open at points against Leicester. And I think we had Ugarte and Casemiro in the midfield there, and we had good players starting defence. I know Lindelof was one of them, but we were open. We were quite open, and I feel like that's not going to change overnight. We are going to leave space, especially if we're playing transition football. We are going to leave space behind the points. So I'm going to go with 2-2.
We'll find out on Sunday.
We'll find out on Sunday. I like a Sunday game that I'm actually excited for. They're good. They're good.
That's the only plus of being in the Europa League.
Sunday games.
Yeah, Sunday games are the best.
Europa League. It's fun when it's a Sunday game against someone like Chelsea. If it's like away against Burnley or something on a Sunday.
Afternoon, 8 p.m. now, 7 late ones.
But regardless, as always, thank you for coming on, both of you. We'll hope that your score predictions are right. I hope for a 3-2. That'd be brilliant, rather than the 2-2.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for tuning in. Remember to listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify if you can't watch on YouTube. Remember to follow all the links below. Subscribe to United View, all of that, and we'll see you next week.